In Magic the Gathering, your life total is a resource. Cards in hand, mana spent, and your life total can be exchanged for game advancement. All of these resources translate into one true resource: time. Hello and welcome to Eternal Durdles. I'm your host, Zach Clark. Every week, my co-host Phil Bleckman and I cover the week's news in Legacy. If you're new to the podcast, go ahead and click the subscribe button right down there. If you're new to the format, that's great. You're in the right spot. This is a great place to start. Time is the... Do you mind? Time is the most... Time? What are you doing? You're killing me. Okay, come on. Go on. Get out of here. Time is the most important resource in Legacy, and Ancient Tomb leverages life for time. Decks that play this card have made a pact with the devil, and that devil is ignoring turns 1 and 2. Ancient Tomb is arguably the second most powerful card and deck type in Legacy. We call these Stompy decks. Stompy has a storied history that goes all the way back to June of 1997, when Rogue Elephant was printed in Weatherlight. It's a reference to the Simpsons episode where Bart adopts an elephant with the name... He named it Stampy. Why did he name it Stampy? He named it Stampy. Get out of here. Okay, that's not as important as the fact that this deck was nothing like the modern day Stompy deck now. In Legacy, in the year of our Lord, 2023, Stompy refers to the type of Legacy deck that generally leverages Ancient Tomb and skewers 1-drop spells like Brainstorm for a more pushed mana curve starting at mana costs 2 and 3. These decks skip the first 2 turns of normal progress and go right into the mid game, often playing a 3 mana cost card or using cards that reduce their mana cost based on the number of artifacts on the board. Right now, there are 3 decks in the Stompy category that see a lot of play: Eightcast, Red, or Dragon Stompy, and Initiative Stompy. I'm going to start with Eightcast. It's the deck I play. Eightcast is the deck that uses cards like Urza's Bauble, Mishra's Bauble, Mox Opal, and Lotus Petal, along with Ancient Tomb, to rush out cards like Emery, Lurker Nalok, Thought Monitor, and Thoughtcast. These cards have affinity, or reduce their colorless mana cost based on the number of artifacts you have in play. All Stompy decks play Chalice of the Void to punish the efficiency of decks that play Brainstorm, Ponder, and Delver Secrets. Some games are determined just by resolving this powerhouse card. Eightcast gets to play Force of Will since it's blue. This gives it a unique place in the Legacy meta as both a Stompy deck, but also a deck that can support Force of Will to stop the decks that normally prey on the Stompy archetype. Eightcast entered the scene in early 2022 when Kamigawa Neon Dynasty introduced Kappa Cannoneer to round out the deck's threat base. Ancient Tomb, Lotus Petal, and Mox Opal all offer you a relatively even chance to gain 2 to 3 mana on turn 1 for the trade-off of a few cards and some life. But is it worth it? Would you start the game on turn 3 but have to lose 2 life and maybe 1 to 2 cards in hand? Like I said, I play this deck, so we know my answer already. So the newest version of the Stompy archetype is Initiative. It comes in Mono White and Gruul flavors. Seasoned Dungeoneer is the crux of the Mono White version, which is still trying to find its footing after losing its marquee card, White Plume Adventure, to the bans in early 2023. The Gruul version of this deck uses Simian Spirit Guide and Elvish Spirit Guide with Ancient Tomb to ramp out Undermountain Adventure and Caves of Chaos Adventure in the same manner that Eightcast uses artifacts. Both of these cards launch a huge clock that, even if answered, might not be enough to come back from if your life total is being pressured. The Undercity Dungeon offers 2 paths. One gives an advantage by upgrading your card selection, and the other is just blast damage at a rate that most decks have trouble keeping up with, especially under disruptive cards like Chalice of the Void and Trinisphere. Initiative archetype of Stompy is so good, it's starting to see play in Vintage. That's a really easy way to tell if the raw power of a card has what it takes to play in Legacy. If the same cards are seeing play in Vintage, it's probably worth a look. Red Prison, or Dragon Stompy, is the oldest version of this archetype, though in recent years this has gone through several upgrades. Initially, the whole deck revolved around playing an early Blood Moon, or Magus of the Moon, or Chalice of the Void. Over time, the Magus was traded for Trinispheres, and the focus of the deck shifted to powerhouse 3-drops that could close out the game alone. Legion Warboss, Goblin Rabble Master, Lelia, the Blade Reforged, and just like the Gruul Initiative deck, Simian Spirit Guide works as your Lotus Petal, and Chromox helps up your 3 mana on turn 1 percentage. Ancient Tomb joins City of Traders in your mana base. So a lot of players ask, why is Ancient Tomb better than City of Traders? That is to say, why do I see it first in this style of decks before City of Traders starts to see play? One reason is certainly the cost of the card. It's a reserve list card, and we can't discount that into the calculus of City of Traders play frequency. But Ancient Tomb is the better choice for several other reasons as well. First, Ancient Tomb allows us to continue progressing our board. The drawback of City of Traders is a real issue if you're planning on playing interactive Magic the Gathering after turn 2. The 2 life that Ancient Tomb asks is not as drastic as losing access to your mana, especially when so much of your deck building is based on higher mana cost cards. Secondly, as a Stompy deck, you are already sort of weak to Wasteland because you tend to play less basics and you are relying on these soul lands to power your deck. In a situation where your opponent Wastelands your non-City of Traders land, they're forcing you to play another land later if you need to progress your land count through the rest of the game. It's a minor interaction, as you will likely have some board presence, but games in Legacy are won and lost in these margins. Finally, there is one other non-Stompy Ancient Tomb deck. Painter is a deck that can win from out of nowhere by combining Grindstone and Painter Servant, and instead of locking you down, this deck spends its early turns setting up a plan to mill your deck out entirely. Goblin Welder and Goblin Engineer offer unparalleled redundancy, and thanks to Painter Servant, the deck can support 6 to 8 Red Elemental or Pyroblast effects, which are already quite good against the meta at large. Ancient Tomb offers a turn 1 Painter Servant, which makes all these Red Blasts live, protecting your combo. Even if the Servant gets removed, your Goblins can trade it out of the graveyard for one of your other artifacts. This deck, like Eightcast, benefits from Modern Horizons 2 Enchantment Saga land, Urza Saga, to get Grindstone into play without even having to cast it. The deck is a strong contender for the best of the Ancient Tomb decks, and we can see how useful Ancient Tomb is when hitting that 3 colorless mana activation cost. One thing all of these decks have in common after Ancient Tomb, of course, is a way to mitigate that life loss. Painter wins on the spot, Red Prison locks you out of the game, Eightcast gets big and wide, too fast to deal with, and Gruul is not only fast, but it supplements its plan with extra damage from Undercity. As I mentioned in a previous video about Days, successful Legacy decks leverage bonuses from broken cards while ignoring or even using their drawback to their advantage. Decks that play Ancient Tomb are successfully doing just that. So that's Ancient Tomb. Did I miss anything? Please comment below. Thanks for watching, and if you got any value out of this video, please consider subscribing and liking the video. That helps out a ton. And don't forget to check out our other Legacy 101 videos in this playlist. I hope this is giving you a real insight into the Legacy format, and I hope to see you across the table from me someday soon. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.